Tēnā koutou katoa. Welcome everybody, and it is so great to see Avondale in the room. We don't often get so many people coming to see us, and it is the heart of what we do when we have community here. So thank you so much for making the trip in here. We don't make it too easy to be accessible, do we? Okay. There were, I think he did, but I will. Item 4, there were no petitions. And so we'll move on to item 5, which is public input. So I'd like to welcome Jacqueline, Ina, Carl and Cynthia to come and talk to the committee this morning. Welcome. I know how long they've got. 10, 5 minutes. I mean 5 for questions. Thank you for coming.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Has the biggest race at Avondale Racecourse already been fixed? Are we facing land grabs, backroom deals and a community being shut out? Racing legislation has introduced a new governing body, New Zealand Thoroughbred Racing, giving it the power to take over racecourses, including Avondale. There's a legal requirement for community consultation, yet behind closed doors, the NZTR has engaged Fletcher Building to draft redevelopment plans for all 35 hectares, has signed an MOU with the Avondale Jockey Club pushing for resolution by 2026, and has created momentum for large-scale development without community input. So, has the horse bolted? What decisions have already been made, and why isn't our community at the table? As community leaders, we've spoken with hundreds of locals and we've commissioned expert insights. So we're here to build a table, to pull up a chair, and to make sure our voices are heard. My name's Jacqueline Benici and I'm here for the I Love Avondale Charitable Trust. We're pleased to have your time and attention today. Ngā mihi nui kia tātou.
Maloni, ko Ina, tōku ingoa from Whau Pasifika Trust. I remember relishing my first ever hot dog on a stick with dripping hot tomato sauce at a nighttime race at the Avondale Racecourse. That was nearly 40 years ago. From my house on Rosebank Road, we can hear gusts of racing sounds from the tannoy. My kids learnt to ride their bikes in the traffic-free Oasis, which sits beside the motoring arterial route of Ash Street. Throughout COVID lockdowns, we met other families from 10 metres away on the current Destination Sports Park. We joined tens of thousands who bus, bike, drive and walk weekly to the Sunday Avondale markets. I've watched Lena's toddler there grow from a toddler to a young adult at my favourite fruit vendor, but I still shop at the Surly Samoans. I'm speaking as a Surly Samoan, because they've picked and sold there for decades. It's their livelihood, like the Indian farmers, the Chinese and West African growers. I've dropped Mum home empty-handed, but flushed with reconnection from the Avondale institution that was housing. And I know from local environmentalists that the racecourse is a migratory stopover for thousands of protected godwits, akuaka, while the greenfields act as an ecological sponge, soaking up the expected floodwaters, with the potential for an urban ngahere to restore our fading green canopy while enhancing our community's well-being. The racecourse has and must always remain a thriving community asset. Kia ora.
Good morning, Council, and thank you very much for having us. My name's Carl Finlay, and I'm the National Secretary of the Maritime Union of New Zealand. So you guys in this room that know Graham McKean, Coach, Grant Williams and Russell Main, I'm their boss. Don't tell them that. But look, long story short, I'm a real proud West Aucklander. I'm born and bred there. As a kid, I played rugby league, and on our wet, dreary, sodden fields, we could always rely on 9 times out of 10 Avondale being available to get out of our miserable existences at home, to have a game of footy with our mates. And that'll be a real shame to see that go. that Avondale Park supported a lot of schoolboy and junior football, whether it be rugby league, rugby, soccer, and as we all know in this room, that's team sport is a real key to being a better human being. Now, you guys that do know the Maritime Union, you know that we're very good at mobilising, we're very good at organising. We're in discussion stage at the moment. The majority, I'd say 50-60% of the workforce down the waterfront live in West Auckland. I'm a Glenora old boy. I have connections with Te Atatu Rugby League, Mount Albert Rugby League, New Lynn, Waitemata, friends at Suburbs Rugby, Waitemata Rugby, and so forth and so forth. My point being, we're in the discussion stage. This group, head by Jacqueline, wants a seat at the table. She speaks for the community. She has all of our support. We're asking for a seat at the table. Otherwise, we're going to have to go to other means to mobilise and ensure that our voice is heard in other avenues. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, my name's Cynthia and I represent the Avondale Business Association. Residents, workers, community groups and business owners are coming together with a shared passion for this land and a commitment to securing the best long-term outcome, not just for Avondale, but for all of Auckland. We appeal to you as the body tasked with setting the direction and the vision for the physical development of our city and, importantly, its community, social, cultural, environmental and climate change policy. Despite the Racing Industry Act 2020 requiring community consultation, there has been none. Meanwhile, we hear council staff discussing the development plans with Fletcher Building as if it were a fait accompli. We've funded independent research on Avondale's community voice, which has just been emailed to several of you. Now we ask you to please convene a working group, bringing together key stakeholders, council, its climate experts, flood engineers, the local board, mana whenua of course, the Avondale Jockey Club, NZTR, developers and the community to explore opportunities for this land. This decision is too big to be made behind closed doors. We urge you to make the right choice for everyone involved. And Jacqueline's happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Thank you for your united front here today to us, and there's nothing like personal life experiences to resonate with us. I'm going to take questions, and the first question I have is from Councillor Watson.
Yeah, thanks for your presentation, and I'm just curious to know in terms of the huge green space and sporting facility that this Avondale has historically presented to all of Auckland region, because I think as Carl said, often it's one of the best fields, best training fields. So my teams from the North Shore used to play over in Avondale. I know it's used extensively for cricket. It's a cricket bonanza there when you go on the weekend. If that facility was to be lost for rugby, league, cricket, all the other codes that use there, there's nowhere else there that could replace it, is it? Such a big area. Isn't that just the sheer physical reality of the significance of this as a sporting facility for the wider region?
Absolutely, it's a loss to the local community, but to the region. So Auckland Council actually ran its own Avondale local parks assessment in 2022, and the Greenfield is part of those parks, even though it's privately owned. It is listed as one of the green spaces because actually council has been paying $1 million over the last over 3 years, every 3 years, to use and hold the space as a community grounds. So that's why it has such access to the community, and it's the only destination sports park in Avondale in the west in the region, and so it's actually currently in community ownership, and would be a loss. There's nowhere else to go for that kind of field. So there are 33 hectares, and we need at least half of that for it to remain as a sports park. Not just a sports field, but a destination sports park. That's why Oceania tournaments come. That's why we have people from all over the region coming to Avondale.
Thank you.
Mine. So in terms of the surrounding sports clubs from Suburbs New Lynn, cricket, Suburbs rugby, the whole, there would be flow-on effect for each and every one club then in that whole wider area if they were to lose that for sport.
Yep, absolutely. And we've had Auckland Suburbs, we've had League, and they've all been part of our community meetings. We've had a number of public discussions, so they are concerned and they also want to be at the table. So we're here representing a number of hundreds of people that we've spoken to, and we'll bring their data around what the flow-on effect would be for them.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councillor Leone?
Could I just add something, please?
yes, sure.
I think it's of significance. As far as I understand, I only learnt this a little while ago. The reason why we used to be able to get a game on footy is because Avondale acts as a sponge and soaks in a lot of the water in the area, preventing a lot of flooding in the area. So that's something that really needs to be taken into consideration.
Good point. Councillor Leone?
Oh, kia ora, and thank you so much for coming in today. It's so great to see you all here, and I know that you've had huge concerns for a long time regarding this. I just wanted to ask around what you've highlighted as some of the alternative plans that you've described. I know that you've had some ideals of what those alternatives are. I'm guessing you might not have any of those slides here for the presentation today, and you've talked about them, but just in terms of your ideas around the future housing, are you saying that you're obviously wanting to maintain the green space, but do you have ideas around housing in the future as well?
Kia ora, Councillor Leone. I mean, we love housing in Avondale. I'm sure you know. We've got a lot of public and private developments, and we have welcomed Occam's Aroha and Set Apartments. We're getting ready to welcome Occam Maratuahu's Manawa development. We work closely with Kāinga Ora and our great supporters. What we want to say at this, in this context is that urban planning is desperately needed for Avondale. We have no master plan for our suburb that looks at the connectivity, the existing infrastructure, public transport, community amenity, and climate resilience. We are not prepared to talk about the volume of housing that we would see as realistic for that piece of land, because we want to shine a light on the fact that the conversations are already happening about us without us. We know that Fletcher Building have commissioned a site plan. We know that the majority of that site plan is residential intensive housing. We don't think it's on us to say X amount of housing is realistic without having the geotechnical reports, the flooding impact reports, and frankly, without probably having some legal representation for our community. But we do want to make a clear statement that we are a place for intensive housing in Avondale where appropriate, and we do not feel that there is evidence at the moment that justifies any large-scale plan at the Racecourse Whenua at this time.
I'll just add, over the years, so much consultation has happened with the Avondale community, and they've gone nowhere. We've been sitting with the Avondale Community Centre, which has had black mould and has been leaking since it was built in the 90s. So we've been underserved as a community with our council, with our public amenities, and what the greatest fear is that we lose this expansive green space without being talked with. And we have, over the years, personally, you know, not through commissioning, but through public commissioning, we've brought the community to ask how we would like to see Avondale developed, and undoubtedly everyone wants to keep the green space. There's support for housing intensification, we're all for it, but we want to be able to service the coming population, the population growth. How are we going to serve them if we lose our gathering spaces and our public spaces? Thank you.
If it's okay for me to add, sorry, Councillor Leone referenced some slides that were part of one of our community hui. So I had a colleague in the audience share this document with all councillors just at the end of our speech, and it's gone to all media contacts that we have. So the Avondale Business Association commissioned this piece of community voice research with input from urban designers and architects. So you all have that in your inboxes now, and that contains the development scenarios, including an OIA site plan that we have on Kainga Ora. We have done some extensive lagoimas to try and get a look at the Fletcher Building site plan, but that hasn't been forthcoming. But we do have a couple of scenarios that we put in front of our community, and now they're in front of you.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Councillor Ferry. Oh, sorry, Leonie.
Just one last question, and thank you again for your leadership. Just coming back to having a reference group moving forward, have you got an idea of how many people that you're looking at for that? Because I'm aware that we may have to look at a resolution for that at a future meeting, but just to get an idea of when you're wanting to look at setting that up and how many people.
We'd love the opportunity, obviously, to convene in a meeting, but we're not by any means one same voice. You know, we represent the entire community. And in the 2 public meetings that we've held, we've had a range of voices, in all fairness. And when we did ask for people's ideas about what happens to the land, we weren't trying to direct them into making a decision. We gave them 3 different scenarios that included full housing, and full green space and anything in between. So we just see this as being the very beginning of a conversation, but not one that has to be exhaustive, you know, because I think there's so much willing there for all of us to do the right thing.
I really support the idea. Thank you.
I would add that we'd like as many seats as possible at that reference, as part of the reference group.
Thank you. Councillor Ferry.
Thank you. Most of my questions have already been asked, but I just wanted clarity on one, which is around, and I see you, Anna, we met at the library and acknowledge the state of the community centre in particular and the community activations that have happened there over many years to make it a heart, and I hope we build you a new one soon. The question I had was around a feasible solution for the land to remain to stay community land, and you've mentioned there are a couple of things that you've put up which I haven't seen yet, but we'll have a look at. So did you want to just expand a little bit on that? Something you see as a feasible way forward? Thank you.
Look, while there's not NIMBYism in Avondale and we recognise the need for housing, we don't concede as a community that that land needs to be turned into housing without there having been an exploration of opportunity. And looking at it, we can all see that that's a potential jewel for all of Auckland. I've lost my train of thought.
That's all right. We could say in terms of feasibility.
Oh, yeah. So,
in terms of feasibility, it could remain in community use.
I mean, it could, yeah. I mean, we haven't even really started that conversation, but we are aware that the Avondale Jockey Club, if they are to be the outgoing organisation, which looks on the cards, they're very eager to leave a legacy for all of Avondale. They really acknowledge the community that supported them and also the history of that land, which we all want to celebrate. Previously, they've offered to gift land to council for the purpose of the new faux swimming pool, and that offer was turned down by council. We're aware that their sentiment is that they want to leave a significant legacy to Avondale, and there's no reason for that not to be a significant parcel of land. Drawing your attention to the faux swimming pool budget of $102 million initially, that budget includes provision for purchase of land. Now, I know that that's been diminished a little bit because some of that putia was transferred towards propping up Te Hono, but I'm of the understanding that that money can also be returned at some later stage. So these are just two little things. Obviously, we don't have an exhaustive reply to that question, but there are opportunities there if we can all explore them together.
Kia ora, thank you.
Kia ora, thank you. Councillor Foley.
Kia ora, thank you. First of all, I just want to commend you all for coming as a united community. It isn't every day in this space that we see a community as united as you are. Residents, Business Association, the union, even our local board, of course, here supporting this kaupapa. So I just want to commend you all on that. And I'm sitting here just thinking and trying to figure out, because it is quite a complex situation, right? How best we as council can support what your community wants us to do. And you've just mentioned now too that the Jockey Club was willing to gift some of that land. So I'm mindful that's a conversation that we as council probably need to explore and look at what we can do going forward. And I've just been looking at the Racing Industry Act as well. And it does talk in the Act about transfer of land, transfer of assets. I mean, once a racing club has folded or has decided not to carry on. So that does involve the minister somewhat. So my question is around that. What conversations, or have you reached out to the minister on this issue? And then also in terms of community consultation, has there been any contact at all? And have you had, you say you haven't had any consultation. Did you want to just explain that a little bit more as well?
So we haven't yet reached out to any government ministers. We wanted to come to you as our local reps first. We would like to see central government represented at the working group that we hope Auckland Council will convene. Yes, it is complicated and there are mechanisms involved that we can't speak about at this audience, including the IHP and Plan Change 78. But in terms of the transference of assets, our community groups see that as theft by legislation, in which the Jockey Club would be forced to lose their land so that the land could potentially be rezoned, the so-called value inflated and sold at an unrealistic price, which would then lock Auckland Council and others out from being likely buyers. Auckland Council does have mechanisms to purchase, that's with you guys. We know that there is a piece of work out for public submission at the moment in terms of the different levers that Auckland Council has to retain important pieces of land for community. But, sorry, probably gone a little bit off track. We haven't yet engaged with central government. We would like your support to do so. Yes, we understand it's complicated, but what we do here is that so much is in conversation and in play already. And so also we're wanting to shine light on those conversations, try and clarify whether commitments have been made, and see what you can do to explore within your different levers to get a good outcome for all of Tamaki Makaurau.
Kia ora, and have you had any consultation at all?
Sorry, just in what sense? With our own community or with?
Sorry, with the, well, because at the start...
Oh, with the Jockey Club?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we have varying relationships with Jockey Club members, but not at yet, because the Thoroughbred Racing requested an MOU with the Jockey Club. There is some restriction, we understand, on what they can engage with the community on. There's potentially some muzzling of the local Jockey Club because the governing body is fairly powerful, and we're also concerned about the Jockey Club losing their voice in negotiation.
Kia ora, thank you.
Member Ashby.
Tēnā koutou. First, just to acknowledge what a great turnout from the community and also acknowledging local board here as well. Thanks for coming out in a show of force about this kaupapa. Two questions from me. Well, the first is maybe a comment. I'm not sure how to turn to a question, but there will be a follow-up. But it's probably pointing out the fact that the relevant iwi haven't been involved either, and not what you guys are coming at, but in terms of this kaupapa. So I'm not familiar with all the legalities of how this thing's carried forward, but there's a missing link there from our haukura perspective in terms of making sure that the process also includes relevant mana whenua. So that's maybe just a note for our officers. But a question for you, obviously the key thing it sounds like you want today to get across is a seat at the table and a clear communication line. And I am looking at your pack, so thanks for sending that through with some discussion options. And so just clarifying, I know that you're not the developers, you're not saying here's X number of houses, but just for the record, you're not anti-housing here, you're just wanting to have a sensitive design that also delivers on those community needs.
I'm not quite sure what I can say in this committee, but it does strike me that we should reverse that question and ask NZTR how much money do they need to realise from this sale? Where is the budget from NZTR that says what they need to prop up the industry as indicated by the new Act and the Masara report? That seems to me a good starting point to answer that question by.
Member Henry.
Kia ora.
Sorry, can I add to that then? Oh, sorry.
Oh, no.
Well, I just wanted to say it is complicated, and our ask is a seat at the table. We don't know if there's what tables there are out there. We are somewhat distanced from all the decision making around here, but we're asking you as the governing body if there are already. This is a question. If there are already departments or teams that are looking at the Avondale Racecourse or future developments in West Auckland from a regional perspective, from a green space perspective, urban planning perspective, that's the kind of table we'd also like to be at, where you control those levers and then we are able to work together. So you as our elected representatives are working alongside some pretty expert, very knowledgeable local residents who have our vested interests, but also the interests of Auckland as a whole. So thank you.
Perhaps just before Member Henry asks this question, if I could just manage some expectations around, you have a commitment from Councillor Hills and I to progress what you are asking of the committee today, and we won't know where that lands and we can't make a resolution to it today, but you have our commitment. We have heard you and we'll keep listening. So, kia ora.
Kia ora. Not many people know this, but I was the Minister of Racing for a very brief time. And my former boss is now the Minister of Racing. And I have to, I think you've got to put it into to some perspective about who the boss is at the moment. Am I right in saying that the owners of the land are the Auckland Jockey Club? Avondale Jockey Club? Okay. Then I have sort of like two questions and a comment, if I may. One is, and I've been going most weekends to Avondale to get my kai, not stuff that I personally cook, but somebody else is doing the cooking and I do the eating. What happens to that facility over time? Because that serves not only me and my gluttony, but thousands upon thousands of Aucklanders. Not just Avondale, not just West Auckland. People as far as Whangarei actually visit Avondale markets to get stuff. And you can get stuff. And that's the great thing about it. People's livelihoods, like the Tobin's fish, one amongst everybody. So does anybody know what happens, or is there a plan about the market?
No, there's no plan for the market. And as you say, it's such a vital market for all of Auckland. And we have here Rob Kemp, who is the owner of that market, who's come today, represents 3 generations of family to run that market. And wonderfully, it's, you know, generations of stall owners that work there. So there's a bunch of workers as well as providing affordable food for, I think, 20,000, is it that many people that go to the market every Sunday? Multicultural food, of course, you know, that you can't get in the general supermarket. So it's just really vital. It's such an important market for all of Auckland. So certainly nowhere else for it to be in Avondale.
Coming from being born and bred in Otara, and about a 4-minute walk to the flea market. Actually, Otara's better, but... No. Oh, come and live in West Auckland or South Auckland. So what you want us to do, or us to take account of, is your request that council take the lead in establishing some sort of working group. I think I know the answer, but my concern is the argument that's going to come from them and from my old boss and his acolytes down in the Big Smoke is that it's private property, and you don't have a say, just like none of you have a say on what I do in my backyard. Sort of. See, you get where I'm going?
Well, we're absolutely aware of the bear myth that we're up against in this land grab situation. Oh my Lord, I've lost my train of thought again. There you go.
Have that effect on people?
Yeah, I mean, yes, we want the working group convened by council, please. And we want, as a starting point, to really get on the table what we have, and that's as Tamaki Makaurau, and what we could lose. Just to tautoko Edward's point around mana whenua being absent, we think, so far from the Fletcher building conversations. We don't know what your ex-boss is going to say or think. Yeah, we can presume. But none of this is impossible. You know, none of this is actually out of our reach. This could be an incredible case study for what is possible for a regional hub to be developed when community holds hands with business and developers and market owners and sports codes, and with a mind to climate resilience. And you know, this could be an incredible opportunity, and I think that we're holding fast to that. We do not doubt that we will be sneered at about this being technically privately owned land, but it's a public asset. There is no doubt that it has been treated by Auckland Council for over a decade as a community asset, with over $1 million lease fees every 3 years paid into the pockets of Avondale Jockey Club. They would not have survived, that jockey club, without Auckland Council lease fees and the Sunday market lease fees. They have been hemorrhaging money for years, frankly. They're at a vulnerable spot. There's legislation that enables a national body to swoop up that piece of land with no benefit landing locally or regionally for Tamaki Makaurau, and we're saying that's not good enough. Let's air out what's been committed, what's been promised, what's been handshaken on, and let's just get together.
Kia ora. Hello,
Can I add? I'm sorry.
oh, sorry.
I think there's been 14 racecourses recommended for sale throughout the country that fell out of the Masawa report. But there's definitely precedent already throughout the country of councils buying that land for the sake of for the community. So again, we keep that there as an opportunity for Auckland. But the legislation comes from the Masawa report that very clearly stated that the community should be engaged to discuss what happens with that surplus asset. And that wording was also brought into the Act. There's many circumstances which we've put in our report of the legislation stating that the community must be consulted, and that's all we're asking for today.
Kia ora. Now I lost my train of thought. Can I suggest a couple of things? And I've heard what you want council to do as a next move. But can I suggest that somebody contacts my old boss and sits them down and tells them in no uncertain, but be kind, no uncertain terms of what the deal is from your point of view. Do you know what the valuation of, if I was to front up today and say, I'll buy their land, what's it worth?
We've heard numbers from 200 to 400 million.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that thought, and I'll take that on board. The Maritime Union have a relationship with your former boss, and if it's okay with this committee and under your direction, we will go and have a quiet chat with
Kira, thank you. We have 3 more questions. Councillor Turner.
Thank you. Time's running on. I'll be quick because there's lots to digest here. You knocked my socks off saying that the council have been offered the land for the pools and turned it down. I'm aware of 2 other pieces of land totally that have been offered and turned down without councillors knowing. It kind of just throws back the olive leaf, the start of a discussion. When I was sitting here thinking, as you were talking, oh, there's a pool going in. When did you hear that, and kind of, how you're certain that that's correct, that council administration turned down an offer for land?
Frankly, I think those letters are actually just Googleable, and also it was reiterated in the Lagoya report that we saw.
I'm sorry, I hadn't picked up, this place is awash with
Oh,
information.
sorry.
So.
Some of those letters are actually just available on Google. We do have a good relationship with the Avondale Jockey Club, and some of that information was confirmed in the Lagoya.
Okay, thank you. I had heard you. What I meant was that this place is awash with information, so I'm sorry I hadn't picked up on it earlier.
Oh, right.
But also, just to pick up on that last comment, so you have a relationship with the Jockey Club that you can work with, yeah?
Yes, yeah.
Good, okay, thank you.
Can I just add, I've had a helpful correction. I think the $200 to $400 million, which likes to be talked about probably by NZTR, would be in the scenario that the land was wholesale rezoned for terrace housing and apartment blocks. It currently has a special purpose zoning, which very strongly restricts the housing development to the perimeter, and the 2021 value of that was 77.5 million. So I am not talking about PC 78, but I am saying that Auckland Council must act with some kind of urgency if you want to look at the levers that you can pull to purchase that land. It will only be purchasable by Auckland Council before it was artificially inflated through a plan change.
Councillor Bartley.
Kia ora, talofa. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for being here. I drew a lot of similarities between Avondale community, like Glen Innes community. We've been underinvested in by previous legacy Auckland City councils. I can acknowledge you being here today to fight for this green space for your community. I wanted to know what was the expectation? Because if we poured in $1 million, surely we're not going to pour that in for something that we won't be able to have anymore. So I just am curious, like, what's the expectation there from the council side that we put this money in here? And then I also wanted to know, is there any other parts of Auckland where this is happening that could perhaps assist with this? Because I'm thinking of Ellerslie Racecourse, but they did not have this, community come and fight for keeping all that green space. So you can obviously see this has got strong community use and a benefit. And then Councillor Lotu asked me to ask you guys, for the 200 to 400 million, would the community consider the targeted rate to buy it?
Yeah, I mean, I think quickly we'd consider the targeted rate for 77 million to be discussed, but not for the 2 to 400 million. But if it is currently valued by Auckland Council at 77.5 million. In terms of the $1 million spent every 3 years by Auckland Council, that is to lease the sports fields, and that is because there is a deficit of suitable sports fields in our city. So we are a little bit hamstrung, or perhaps your governing body is, where it's paying out a lot of money for something that should be in community ownership. You're just paying a really high rent for something that you need. But I'll let Cynthia answer the other. Is there another part of the question that you want to answer?
Do you know about that?
Okay. Okay, thank you. Councillor Leone, you have the last question, and would you like to move the motion to receive the report and thank our speakers?
Yes, I'm happy to. Oh, look, mine was just a follow-on comment from Councillor Foley, really, around whether there has been the ask to Racing Minister Winston Peters, and it was just to let people know that obviously as the ward councillor, I have reached out to him with no response. So I was actually going to put the question back to Member Henare, given that they've got connections, whether that might be more successful for him to reach out. But great to see that that you have got that connection there. And we do. We need to be able to progress this further and to have those conversations, because I absolutely agree that we need to make sure that the community is consulted in any decision making going forward. So I just wanted to, have that final comment to say that absolutely tautoko your presentation today and making sure that community is at the table going forward. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Can I just add that it's been since 1952 that Auckland City or, legacy councils have leased sports fields at Avondale Racecourse. 1952 is the number that I've just been given, the year.
Great, thank you. Jacqueline, Ina, Carl and Cynthia, thank you so much. You have raised more questions than we had before. So we've got a lot of talking to do. Thank you to the Avondale community also for coming in today. Councillor and Hills and I will be discussing with officers what the next steps might be so we can inform the rest of our policy and planning committee on next steps. So thank you very much. I will second the thanks for you to come in, and we'll be in touch. Thank you very much. Just going to put that motion, I'll just do a vote on. We can't move anything on a deputation. But I would like to move the thanks. All in favour? Against? It's carried. Thank you. We're just going to take a 5-minute recess, councillors.